it's hard to be open about it sometimes because you want to keep this level of like positivity and things to your audience. But I feel like it was important for me to show transparency because whether good or bad, like this is what it is. And I'd rather be able to look back at this as a testimony, and especially for you guys in the future, and especially as you know, Sarai grows up and gets older and you guys see how she does and you're able to see where I was at this point. I think like that's going to be important for even for me because I don't know right now. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I just got done filming a makeup tutorial on this look and I was like, you know what? I need to go ahead and knock out this video about my experience with gestational diabetes. I actually had gestational diabetes when I was pregnant with Sarai, and I filmed something while I was pregnant, and I'm gonna add in the clips here so that you can kind of see like how I was at that time, because I wanted to share my journey with you. But I'm just gonna let the clip play for a bit and you guys can kind of see what I mean and probably understand why I wasn't prepared to share at that time. So I am currently 32 weeks, which means I'm 8 months pregnant, and I have been good pretty much my whole pregnancy. First trimester for me I was very tired. I had some nausea here and there, and I started having heartburn in my first trimester, so probably towards the end of it. And I found out that I was pregnant like very early on, so I've known since I was about 5 weeks that I was pregnant. And so it's been a minute, okay? I feel like this experience has been a long time. I know a lot of people are like, it goes by so fast and, it's going to feel like it just happened like that. But when you're going through it, at this point, I'm definitely like, okay, I'm ready for her to be here. I'm ready to like go into the next chapter. I'm ready to like not have the stress of carrying a child and being super cautious. And clearly I'm gonna be cautious whenever she comes, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't know, you can't see her, you can't talk to her, you can't, you know what I mean? That pregnancy worry. And so my second trimester was super, super smooth. Like, when I say I barely felt pregnant my second trimester, I was like on the go. I was working a ton so that I could like really kick it and like chill when she gets here. And I was traveling a lot. And just like really like kicked it up because I knew I had to, get everything I had to do really done in my second trimester while I had the energy and stuff. So I felt great in my second trimester. Well, towards the end of my second trimester, you do the glucose test. And for those who don't know what the glucose test is, it's basically a test where they test how your blood sugar is doing and how fast or slow you are processing sugars and carbs and things in your body, because essentially insulin is what helps your baby grow. And so essentially I walk into it kind of apprehensive and I posted about it on Instagram, like, oh, I'm like nervous about this glucose test that I have to take. I'm not really I'm kind of afraid of it or whatever, because I do have a history of gestational diabetes in my family. And so I was just worried about it. I had been watching what I was eating and things like that through my pregnancy, but not like very, very strict. I was doing it, but not like full capacity. So, because I didn't know that I, needed to or didn't need to or whatever. So I take the test and I failed the first test. And at first, I was really bummed about it because I was like, damn, I got to go back in here and do this 3-hour test where essentially, you start off by drinking this like very syrupy, sugary drink, and you have to do it in like 5 minutes. And then an hour later, they take your blood and see where your blood sugar is, like if it's high or if it's low, or in like a normal range. And so my blood sugar was high. And so essentially my that amount of sugar should have processed through my body by that hour point, but it hadn't. So in order to, that's their screening test. So then for gestational diabetes. So then if you fail that, then you have to take a 3-hour test where essentially you fast for 8 to 10 hours or 8 hours prior to taking the test. And then you bring in, like what you've eaten, or you try to eat pretty healthy, like a few days prior to, and then you go in, they take your blood right when you get there, your fasting sugars. Then they give you even more of a sugary drink, like a even worse drink, to take, to drink in 5 minutes. And then they test you an hour again, see where your blood sugar is. Then the next hour, they'll see where your blood sugar is. And then finally at the fourth, or technically it's 3 hours, but you get your blood drawn 4 times. You have to sit there and you can't eat anything. You have to just like be there. So I go do the 3-hour test, and my first hour, like my fasting sugar was fine because clearly I knew, I wasn't supposed to eat anything, so I was fine. But once I had gotten into my, my first hour in, second hour in, my blood sugars were high. So I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And for me, I knew that people in my family had it and they got through it. My family members who had it are fine, all that kind of stuff. But it was different for me because I was like afraid of it, clearly. And you go through this process of feeling super guilty about it. And you start to question, like, what should I have done? I should have did better. I should have this, that, all these things. But, it's just a thing. And for me, even though at that point, I knew that, my doctor told me, there's nothing you can do, essentially. It's either your body can handle the extra insulin or extra sugars in your blood because of the baby, because the baby wants to get that to be able to grow. Either your body can handle the excess of it or you can't. And it's really like genetics that affect it. And so it's really more prominent in women of color, especially Black women, and Latinas, and if you have like hereditary, significance of diabetes and all these other things, like can heighten your chances of having it. So I checked off a couple of those boxes, so I ended up having it. And even though I knew those things, and my doctor was super positive about it, she was very like, uplifting and like, what, this is just an opportunity for you to get some healthy, healthy habits into your lifestyle, and just making sure like you and baby are good, and you'll be able to have her sometime early. And I was like, okay, wait, what? Like, hold on, I don't understand like how all this works. So essentially what has to happen is basically I have to monitor my blood sugars as if I'm basically a diabetic right now. And for me, I've always been a small person. I've always been like pretty thin and decently healthy. And I'm 28. So I think that's also a thing. If you're over 25, like your chances heighten as well. But so it was just crazy to me to think that like I am now kind of considered a diabetic, which just never dawned on me. And so this is where, and on top of all this, I'm in my 3rd trimester, so I'm incredibly hormonal. And that's another thing for me. This time of my pregnancy has been incredibly emotional, like very emotional. I've always kind of struggled with anxiety, bouts of depression here and there in my lifetime, but this season has been on like a different level. And the stress and worry of literally taking my blood sugars 4 times a day. I have to prick my finger 4 times a day and monitor my blood sugars and meet with nutritionists and have extra ultrasounds and have extra doctor's visits, because technically now I'm considered high risk. And so, just with all of that was like a lot for me to handle. I also don't have a lot of structure in my day. Like I've made my life that way because I don't like structure. I don't like having to have every day be the same thing. I just don't do well with that kind of format in life. And so when I got diagnosed and I had to really like restrict my diet incredibly, kind of switch up my lifestyle a little bit, and do this very specific timed blood sugar testing and like monitoring, it just freaked me the hell out. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's been very, very, very hard. I'm still in it, so that's why, initially I was saying I was contemplating on if I was gonna do this video or not, if I was gonna talk about it after the fact. But I also think it's important to like capture how you feel like in the moment of things. So I currently am still like processing it. It's been almost a month since I've been diagnosed at this point. I've been, keeping my food diary on like MyFitnessPal, which is super helpful because I can see the caloric breakdown of everything that I'm eating. And I can see like where if I do spike, like if my blood sugars spike after a certain meal, I can go back to my food diary and say, okay, like what was it that I ate that might have triggered this or whatever. And it's just a lot of pressure because it's like you start reading into, what could happen if, your child, if you have gestational diabetes, there's like all these different things that could happen. Your risk of having diabetes is like within the next 5 years is like incredibly high. And I'm just like, what? So it's just, and on top of that, I'm reading and keeping up with like, the statistics of, Black maternal like deaths and all these things that are like really hot topics right now, in, the news and just in popular culture. I know Serena had complications, Beyonce had complications. So it's just like, there's a lot of us that have these complications or feel like the healthcare system doesn't have our best interests at heart because they don't listen to us in the same way as they may listen to other people. And so, all of that, of course, is just fantastic for my anxiety, right? Like, it's just like, oh, great. This is a hot topic right now. And I'm also pregnant and now I'm also high risk. And, I'm just kind of in this place where I'm just super fearful, to be honest. It's been rough, because like everything feels like every time my blood sugar spikes, even though it's not a lot, and my nutritionist is like, you're doing fine. I know that I'm doing okay. I'm not like bombing it, like I know that I'm not, just doing terribly, but every time, I get close to, spiking, or if I'm like, or I do spike, I feel like this like trigger to like a fight or flight survival mode, or it goes from me being like cool and good to like, you're hurting your baby. And it's like automatically goes there. Any sort of disruption in my time to schedule, if I can't get, the food that I planned out in my mind of what I was going to eat for that meal or that snack or whatever, I end up, I really go crazy because in my mind, not reality, but in my mind, it's like I'm doing something to harm her. I'm doing something to, compromise her circumstance, or, it's just like that guilt, that I've been personally struggling with. So I've been looking online and trying to find, just supportive, like posts and like, things to kind of help me keep up my spirits through this. And I've just found that a lot of people like also have a rough time with this. Like, it's not that many people that I've at least found that have been able to tackle this condition with a very positive, focused like mindset. Like, I see a lot of people talking about it after the fact and being like, it was so worth it. Like, I got it. I did what I had to do, and blah, blah, blah. My baby's healthy and all these things. And like, for me, in the moment of it, it's like I can't relate because I'm not there yet. I'm just not there yet. So it's like, it's a struggle for me to continue to like show up in videos and posts and things, and around friends and family and stuff, and be, myself when I like do not feel like myself. And for me, it's like I have been trying to figure out like what works best for my body, because there's tons of suggestions out there of like meals and snacks and things, but you have to find what your body can like handle and what your body can't. And so I've never had this much difficulty with mastering something before in a long time that I can remember. So that's the other thing, is like I'm such a like, full speed ahead type of person. Like, I'm ready to tackle this thing. But when you've been trying diligently to figure something out for a minute and you still feel like you're at square one, it's discouraging. So I fight with those, spirits of feeling discouraged, spirits of feeling defeated, spirit of feeling like I'm not gonna make it to a point where I don't need insulin, because that's the next step. If you can't manage it yourself, you have to get on medication, and I don't want to do that. But I have moments where I'm just like, this isn't working for me, like my nutritionist tells me one thing and that's actually doing terrible for me. But then if I do what I find that works, it's counterintuitive to what the nutritionist told me. So what am I supposed to do? And I have to choose the thing that works and that keeps my blood sugar low. But then I'm worried that, well, if I go against what they say, is there going to be a consequence that I don't know about? So it's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, dealing with that on top of just like transitioning, with life, to have her here it's intense. It's very intense. So I just wanted to open up about it. I'm not really sure if this is one of those videos where I just needed to vent and say like what I was feeling. I really don't have like a just do this and everything will be okay kind of ending, because like I said, I'm still in it. I'm still processing it. I'm still figuring out, what's going to work. I don't know if I'm going to be induced yet. I would prefer not to be induced. Obviously, I want to have as much of a natural birth as possible. But usually with gestational diabetes, depending on your hospital and depending on, your body and how your baby's doing, they usually induce you around 37 weeks. At the end of the day, I just pray and I say, to myself all the time, like, I'm going to be good. My baby's going to be good. Like, that was one thing that Mark kind of like put in my head. He was like, you got to just get up every day and just say like, you're blessed, your baby's blessed, we're blessed. Like, and if that's all you can say that day, then that's all you can say. And there are many days where that's literally all I can say, prayer wise, because I don't have other words, to be quite honest. I've been struggling with just like, I don't know what to continue saying. Like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I feel like, I just try to explain to God, like, how I'm feeling, where my heart's at, and to just ask for guidance and ask for just some sort of just feeling like I'm not failing, because that's where my mind wants to go. And that's where, that's where my mind wants to go, is that I'm a failure. And I know that's not true, but perception is reality in a lot of cases, and my perception is really negative right now. I hate that, but it's true. It's hard to be open about it sometimes because you want to keep this level of like positivity and things to your audience. But I feel like it was important for me to show transparency because whether good or bad, like this is what it is. And I'd rather be able to look back at this as a testimony, and especially for you guys in the future, and especially as you know, Sarai grows up and gets older and you guys see how she does and you're able to see where I was at this point. I think like that's going to be important for even for me because I don't know right now, but I believe that she will be great and she will be good, and I'll be able to look back at this video. I'm so emotional. I'll be able to look back at this video and feel very proud of myself. Even though I know I don't feel that right now, I'll be able to. So I wanted to share that with you guys too, because I think that, like I said, I think that'll be helpful to anyone else that's also struggling with, you know, gestational diabetes. So yeah, it was a difficult time for me. It was not easy as someone who never really struggled with anything as far as my nutrition or weight or, you know, besides the usual, I wish I could lose 10 pounds thing, but I never really had any sort of health concerned thing that particularly dealt with like my diet or lifestyle. And so when I found out I had gestational diabetes, it was rough, okay? And it was rough the rest of my pregnancy with gestational diabetes. You know, I also had a concern that she would potentially have jaundice because that is something that happens whenever you have gestational diabetes, or when you or your partner has had jaundice as a child. I had jaundice when I was born, and so did my sister, and so did my niece. So I kind of had this preconceived notion that like she would also, but she didn't. She was perfectly healthy. She latched on immediately. Like she was just perfect. And so now looking back at how I was feeling about the gestational diabetes, I am not saying that it was for nothing, because there was, you know, I feel like my concern was warranted. It also made me really more aware that, you know, I'm more likely to have type 2 diabetes in the next 5 years. And I'm not like heavy set. I'm not terrible with my eating habits. I'm active here and there, but when I got pregnant, I wasn't in the gym at all. I would take walks here and there, but not really that much. I was really tired throughout my pregnancy, except my second trimester. I was pretty feeling like my normal self, but really my first trimester and my third trimester were really rough for me. And so as challenging as it was, you know, figuring out my day-to-day meals, going from eating like 2 to 3 large meals a day to like 6 small meals and snacks throughout the day, and timing it and pricking my finger, taking my blood sugars every, you know, few hours. It was a lot. And I empathize with anybody who has to go through that because it's not easy. And looking back, it's like, I was lucky to like be at home, you know, and like not have to do that at work or at school or anything like that. And, you know, it also puts me on awareness that when I get pregnant again, I will also have to be aware that the likelihood of me having the diabetes again is really high. And so what I've started to do now is just looking at my lifestyle and really taking a lot of the things that I learned during that time frame of how to eat better, how nutrition actually works for me, because that's another thing. It's like there's all these fad diets out there, right? Like keto and paleo and whole 30 and like all these different things, right? Vegan, pescatarian. I've tried a lot of these different things, but I never understood what worked best for me until I had diabetes. And then I realized that, oh wow, like I am focusing, you know, my diet on the wrong things. I'm trying to look at, you know, very general like diets like keto or vegan, and not realizing that my body needs certain things that I was missing when I was trying to do those diets. And so forcing myself to learn about macros and micros and, you know, your balance between your proteins and carbs and fat and all that kind of stuff really helps me now looking back, be more prepared to be healthier as a person even after she's been born. And so I have taken a lot of the same meals and things that I figured out finally through that experience, and still implement them now. And I feel good about that. At the end of the day, it's like, that was scary, feeling like, damn, like I'm not as healthy as I thought I was. And I'm 28, so it's like I'm not old and I'm not, unable to do anything. I'm completely able-bodied, so I've got to be more, grateful for that, because things can go wrong at any moment. Tomorrow, anything could happen, and so I have to get more serious about, maybe not necessarily more serious, but just more intentional with how I eat and how I live life, honestly. And so I'm also getting prepared for my wedding in about 9 months. So I've hooked up with my girl, Melik, who is one of my really, really good friends out here in Oregon. She is a nutrition coach, and she can do her job in coaching virtually as well as in person and kind of thing. So I'm teaming up with her to get a meal plan. I just started it this week, so I'm taking things slow, but getting on a meal plan that's super, super catered to, my goals and my body type and just my history, and how I can slim down, but doing it in a healthy way, doing it in a sustainable way more than anything, and in a way that I still get to enjoy food the way that I do, but just understanding how certain foods work with my body the best. So I'm really excited to start that journey with her. If you want to know more about what she can do and how she can help, because seriously, she knows so much and is super on it when it comes to check-ins and making sure that you are feeling good and feeling empowered through the process, because it's not easy to change your lifestyle. It's really, really not. But, I think that if you have the right support and the right accountability around you, it is going to make such a big difference. So now I am on a meal plan, not necessarily super strict, but just a plan to get me going, and to where eventually I won't need to be so specific with watching everything. But during this time frame, when I am trying to lose the baby weight and I am trying to, just reframe the way that I operate with food and all that kind of stuff, I am super excited and glad that I am taking this step with her. And so if you guys have any other questions about my experience with gestational diabetes or how I'm feeling after, just let's talk more down below. I'd love to hear your experiences, and just share and kind of create, some dialogue there, especially for those of you out there who have just realized that you have gestational diabetes, or you just got diagnosed, or you're worried about it while you're, as you're getting close to that glucose test. Just comment down below. I will do my best to answer the comments, but you all know that a lot of you interact with one another in comments as well, so I think that's also amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye.